Hello everyone and welcome to What If Russia Won the Black Sea War? For context, in the MWT the Russians declared a special military operation into Caucasia, and what the world didn't know was that they had a secret alliance. A secret alliance with the other Mesopotamian nations. Eventually, after probably a few years, the Russians had gotten defeated badly. But what if they actually won the Black Sea War? Could they have survived in the modern day? Could the former Russian glory been brought back? Well, let's find out. Jumping straight into it, after World War V, the War of the Elites, Russia will ask the West to at least let them take control of Eastern Rome. Reluctantly they agree after Russia says they would allow for them to take control of Croatia. The next change we will make it after the invasion of the Pentagon Alliance. They still fully annex Ukraine and invade Moldova, but they turn Poland into a puppet state. This allows for them to take control of valuable resources and prevents the threat of Poland once again going against them. By basically controlling Poland, this opens a new border between multiple new countries, which also changes the Russian plans. Instead of going after Finland, they decide to invade into Pomerania. Now the only reason they still have their color and Poland doesn't is because they are still secretly a puppet state, but Russia claims for them to be a sovereign state. Meanwhile, Russia openly states Poland is a full-on puppet state of Russia. After around a year of building up their military, Russia begins the Second Winter War with Finland. With all the new lands the Russians have gained, they have been able to climb their way up to 5th place, but they are essentially tied with West Africa. This very much frightens their neighbors because there's pretty much just another China right next to you. Anyways, back to the war. The Russian military has been making reports about there being way more troops fighting than Finland has, and they also just don't look Finnish. Well, this is actually Norway. Yes, in the MWT Norway had thought of joining the war but simply decided not to. They are afraid of a third Russian return and want to stop it with the first chance they get. Looking at the naval layer, there are ships and planes fighting everywhere in the waters of the Baltic Sea. After Russia had gained Poland and Ukraine, they had made sure to beef up their navy to at least be on par with Norway's. While Norway is strong and they definitely slowed the offenses of the Russians, they still are no match for Russia. The Russians land in Uppland, which forces Norway to pull troops out of Finland to protect their own territory. But wait! Polish rebels begin attacking Russian military outposts and bases, and also begins an offensive in Pomerania to try and free them. However, when your military is fighting with pitchforks and handguns against a full-grade military, top 10 at that, it doesn't go too well. Poland did serve as a good distraction, and it allowed for many counter-offensives to take place. This is very short-lived though, as Russia begins to just slam forces north. Gotland, an island basically built like a military base, a major military base in WW3 and still is today. The Russians have finally landed on it and a large battle begins. Around 160,000 Norwegian men are surrounded, and while there's a bunch of them, there's just no shot for them to win as Russia shoots like a trillion missiles. As this important island is lost, so is the morale, and fast forward a few weeks, Finland is gone and Norway surrenders. Looking at the peace treaty, Russia takes many major cities from Finland and turns them into a puppet state. Russia also takes the island of Gotland and some of Sweden, which holds a major Russian population. I also don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but when Poland was turned into a puppet state, Russia also gave some land to Czechia, as I believe it once was their land, and they hope to gain new allies. In the treaty they also demanded land around the Kattegat, which absolutely flows money into their economy, which fuels their military and makes it wire stronger. 1.5 years later they begin an invasion of another country, Caucasia. Yet in this video they still have their alliance with Mesopotamia. And other countries also join in to help Mesopotamia, like the Farmers' Republic, Kazakhstan, and surprisingly Norway. 1 million troops smash right into Caucasia and instantly start pushing back the Russians, while in the Farmers' Republic, let's just skip this. Norway did actually violate their peace treaty that they had with Russia, and they are really like only a fraction of their old self, but they do catch them off guard. Over in Kazakhstan they are getting crushed as the Teal team also joined the war. On the Caucasian front they begin just sending hundreds of thousands of troops over and begin forming a spearhead towards the capital, which is pretty dumb. Russia just by itself is about the same strength as the red and blue team, and including their puppets and allies, both sides basically even out. So why not make that statement false? Egypt, Turkmenistan, and Sicily all join the 3-point star alliance. But you can't not have countries join the square alliance. The two Anatolian countries join, and so does Greece. Meanwhile, up in the Balkans, as the Square Alliance sieges every major city, the Farmers' Republic surrenders. Almost the same could be said for Kazakhstan, but they decide to still hang in there. But wait! Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video. In Scandinavia, Norway has taken back their Swedish claims because while Finland has begun moving down the coast. As strong Greek logistics are put to work, they quickly begin surrounding the Italian peninsula and started making landings. The Mesopotamians have to start cutting back on the troops in Caucasia because a new front opened up. Unlike the MWT, the Ukrainian People's Front never opens up, as Mesopotamia has still yet to get to Crimea. Speaking of the new front, Mesopotamian ships had begun landing on the coast of Anatolia, but quickly Greece came and encircled around 30,000 troops on the land. Russia has been able to push back into some Caucasian land, as right now it's really only a few countries fighting there. Meanwhile, back down in Anatolia, the Red Team has captured the capital. After Turkmenistan had joined the war, the Central Asian countries and Russia quickly knock out Kazakhstan, which allows for them to focus on Turkmenistan. The Anatolian countries had opened up a new front, which instead of them having to go all the way around the Black Sea, they could attack from Anatolia. Currently 50% of Rome's military is helping Greece with Naples, while the rest is in Anatolia. Bulgaria's military is completely on the Anatolian front. Around 35% of Greece's military is in Naples and the rest of it is in Anatolia. Russia is pretty much the only one fighting in Caucasia, but that's mainly because all of the Central Asian nations are trying to save Uzbekistan from Turkmenistan. The Russian puppet states are all fighting against Norway, while Russia also begins sending over troops, because eventually if they knock out Norway, all they basically need to do is have everyone fight against the Mesopotamians, which easily gives them the dub. However, this doesn't mean the Mesopotamians are weak. The UAE, Egypt, Palestine, and Pontus are all told to attack the Anatolian countries, while the Red, Blue and Caucasian team all put their troops on the border. They have obviously seen how the Russians are quickly advancing in their war efforts and decides to go in their own rapid maneuver. Over 1.6 million troops cross the Caucasian border in an attempt to outflank the Russians and to force them into surrender. 5 Russian major cities are taken and a small-scale spearhead forms in which is aimed at taking the Russian capital. Uzbekistan and the Teal Team lose their capitals after many naval battles take place. The Mesopotamians also state many other nations are willing to join their side. But it is here where the world takes a vote. The Assembly remembers World War III and the Mesopotamian Accord. The majority of the AN decides this violates the Treaty of the Third World War and agrees that Mesopotamia is a threat, marking the joining of some AN nations across the globe. The Russians start pulling troops from Caucasia in order to try and take out Norway. After the Baltic Sea turns Russian, Norway quickly falls. Eastern Rome allows for the Greeks to deploy naval warships into their waters. West Africa and Greece make quick work of Naples and forces them into capitulation. Mesopotamia's influence is shrinking. All of the Central Asian countries, including Afghanistan and some of India's troops, begin heading straight into Turkmenistan. Mesopotamia had all of their own troops retreat to come fight for the mainland, leaving the rest of the people there to fight for themselves. Die! Similar to the front in Turkmenistan, the Mesopotamian armies have retreated back to the mainland without largely contacting the Caucasians. Either the Caucasian armies get trapped in major cities and eventually die, or they end up dying. Over 30,000 are trapped in each encirclement and ultimately they all get wiped and Russia begins their new offensive into the mountainous country. At this point, almost every non-Mercedes alliance have fallen to the might of the Russians. The Battle of the Homeland has begun. The Mercedes alliance was open about having new allies come into the war, but once the AN formed a global coalition against the Mesopotamians, they decided to stay quiet. Some of them still do support them though, and Persia and Sudan allow for Mesopotamia to use their naval ports. They also equip the ships with supplies and weapons. They really shouldn't have done that because now they're on the radar. Combined armies all over the world are heading their way towards Mesopotamia, and already there is 5.4 million only in the holy cities. I also noticed I forgot to include the sunken water from the meteor, so whoops. A fifth front line opens up after many Central Asian armies cross the Caspian Sea. The Mesopotamian navy is completely destroyed and over 10 million troops flood into the subcontinent. The piece where civilization started is already under occupation and India is making their way up Arabia. They've given one hell of a battle. But everything that the people know of the once strong and fearful empire is gone. But the Russian Federation has done it. They won the Black Sea War. Let's look at a peace treaty. The first part of the treaty is Norway getting turned into a Russian puppet and Poland is annexed. In the Balkans, Greece, West Africa, and Rome divide up Naples. Russia also turns the Farmers' Republic into a puppet and the rest of it is split up by Bulgaria, Czechia, and Rome. North Anatolia takes control over all of Pontus and South Anatolia annexed a few provinces from the Red Team. In Central Asia, Kazakhstan no longer is here, and Turkmenistan is split between Uzbekistan and PIS Team. Also in the treaty, Uzbekistan allowed for the PIS Team to border the Caspian in exchange for a few provinces in the north to take land from Kazakhstan. In Mesopotamia, where the most important changes take place, the capital of the Red Team is put under AN occupation. Qatar is seized by India in order for them to have close proximity to keep the Mesopotamians in order. Russia gains a puppet state and Arabia keeps their old government but is exiled to the Rakbar Plains. The AN also asks for people of all ethnicities to move into Mesopotamia. They promise a better life there and also give 1K to anyone who moves and free healthcare for 10 years. In 10 years. In a way, people see this as trying to water down the Mesopotamian people and drive them out. However, they still take the deal. The AN successfully makes sure an old empire can never form again. But anyways, the Russians won the Black Sea War and make themselves clear to be a top power. Now, there's really nobody to stand in their way.